All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely magnificent, utopian promise of a $20,000 humanoid chore robot, and why, honestly, it might just be the tech industry's latest giant illusion. Look, we're diving into a space where the potential is just staggering, right? But the reality is, well, it's a whole lot messier. As technology analysts, our job today is to cut straight through those shiny, highly produced marketing videos. We need to identify the critical patterns in AI development right now and examine this massive, undeniable gap between what these companies are selling us today and what these machines can actually truly do.
So, we have to start with the ultimate sci-fi dream. I mean, picture this. You leave for work in the morning, and the second you pull out of the driveway, your futuristic, self-charging housekeeper robot wakes up. It tackles your dishes from start to finish. It folds your laundry, perfectly by the way. It waters your plants on an absolute flawless schedule. It tidies up the living room, manages to find that lost TV remote, and then makes sure the entire house is locked up tight. You come home, and your place is spotless. You literally never have to do chores again. That is the incredible, life-changing dream being sold to us right now by a new robot called Neo.
And here's the wild part. This isn't just some concept drawing on a whiteboard somewhere. This is a real product you can pre-order today. The marketing is pitching a highly capable, human-shaped assistant. It stands about 5.5 feet tall, weighs in at a surprisingly light 66 pounds, packs a 4-hour battery life, and comes with its own self-charging dock. But then, there's the price tag. You can put down a deposit right now to either pay a flat $20,000 to own the whole shebang outright, or you can subscribe for $500 a month. The target audience here is crystal clear, right? They're going after wealthy early adopters, people who've done the math and decided that buying back a few hours of free time every week is definitely worth that massive financial premium.
But you guys, there's a massive rug pull waiting just beneath the surface here. When you watch those promotional videos, the natural assumption, the one they want you to make, is that this robot has built-in artificial intelligence. You just assume it recognizes your house, navigates entirely on its own, and autonomously folds your t-shirts. But recent demos from journalists, including a really revealing one by Joanna Stern, showed us a shocking truth. When the company showed off the robot carrying items or carefully loading up a dishwasher, 100% of those complex tasks were not done by AI. No way. They were literally being remotely controlled by a human sitting in another room wearing a VR headset and holding hand controllers.
We really need to clearly define a term here: teleoperation. Because understanding this is absolutely crucial to understanding the tech right now. Teleoperation is simply the remote control of a machine by a human operator. It is distinctly, fundamentally different from true autonomous navigation. There is an astronomical technical gap between a highly advanced remote-controlled puppet, which, let's be real, is essentially what was demonstrated, and a truly intelligent robot that can scan a messy living room, make its own decisions, and clean it up entirely on its own. One is a very impressive feat of hardware robotics, the other is the absolute holy grail of artificial intelligence. And right now, we are mostly just looking at the puppet.
In fact, if you look very, very closely at the nearly 10-minute keynote video selling this magnificent dream, the company actually labels exactly when the robot is acting on its own. And in that entire video, guess how many labeled autonomous actions there were? 2. Literally just 2. One was the robot walking over and pulling a door open. The other was the robot grabbing an empty cup out of someone's hand. That is it. Everything else we see this machine do, the complex chores, the deep cleaning, the sorting, we can safely assume was remote controlled by a human being.
And, this brilliantly illustrates the core technical gap in current AI. It's the sheer, mind-boggling volume of chaotic variables a machine has to learn. To actually pull off what's being promised, an AI has to be able to navigate millions of entirely unique 3D floor plans. It has to look at a kitchen counter and instantly differentiate between a sturdy plastic cup and a super fragile wine glass, knowing exactly how much grip pressure to apply to each so it doesn't shatter them. It has to understand the countless shapes of shirts, jackets, and pants to fold them right. And think about the stakes for a second. What if the task is bringing an elderly person their medication? It has to perfectly identify that specific medication and dispense it at the exact correct interval. The variables inside a normal, messy human home are practically infinite.
Section 1. The Autonomous Vehicle Parallel.
So you're probably wondering, why on earth would a company release a $20,000 product that clearly hasn't finished learning how to do its job yet? Well, as technology analysts, we can look at the perfect parallel playbook for this: Tesla's self-driving beta rollout. Both of these systems face just this incredible AI challenge, and both of them rely entirely on everyday consumers acting as their beta testers. But think about the differences. Tesla's cars operate on a mostly 2D plane, roads and highways. When that system gets confused, the human driver takes over the wheel, and the car's sensors send that data back to headquarters so the AI can eventually learn from it. Now apply that exact logic to home robotics.
The environment is a chaotic, 3D, messy house. And because you obviously don't have a human sitting inside the robot, the training method relies on remote employees using teleoperation to step in and correct the machine. In both cases, the whole model relies on early adopters stumbling into unknown situations so the system can gather data.
Let's break down how this actually works in practice, because on the robot's website, they detail something they call expert mode. Here is the actual training loop they expect you to use. Step 1, your shiny new robot encounters an unknown household task it hasn't learned yet. Step 2, you literally schedule a human teleoperator, an employee of the company, to remotely dial in, look through the robot's cameras, take over, and do your chore for you. Step 3, the system gathers all that rich camera and sensor data from inside your house. And Step 4, the AI supposedly learns the task for the future. They are actively banking on early adopters being totally fine with this setup.
Which brings us to a massive, glaring moral and privacy question. Would you honestly pay $20,000 to let remote employees watch your living room just to train their robot? Sure, the company suggests they might blur out faces or let you geofence certain private areas, but the core reality remains. Is it actually ethical to charge customers a massive premium to act as unpaid beta testers, potentially sacrificing their in-home privacy, all so the company can eventually build the AI they marketed to you in the first place?
Furthermore, stepping away from the whole AI data gathering thing for a second, we really have to debate the physical design itself. Does a chore robot actually need to be humanoid? I mean, it walks around on 2 legs, it has 10 fingers, it's shaped just like us. But is that actually the most efficient design for wiping down counters? Or is it just an incredibly effective sci-fi marketing gimmick designed to sell you the dream?
Because when you stop and look at the reality of it, the humanoid form has some severe drawbacks for this kind of work. At 5'6" and only 66 pounds, it is quite simply too small and too weak to carry heavy laundry baskets or shift furniture around. Watching the demos, you can see its operation is inherently a bit slow and clumsy. And crucially, a top-heavy 2-legged robot carries a severe risk of falling over. If it trips on a rug, it might seriously struggle to get back up, effectively turning your $20,000 robotic maid into an incredibly expensive turtle stuck on its back. And worse, what if it clumsily drops a heavy glass or tips over onto a pet or a toddler? It's highly likely that specialized, non-humanoid designs, maybe picture something closer to an advanced, rugged Roomba with arms, might actually solve household tasks much more safely and effectively.
And honestly, this brings us to the saddest irony of this entire rollout strategy. Who is actually buying this? Wealthy early adopters who just want to save a few hours of chore time on the weekends. But who needs this technology the absolute most? The elderly and folks with physical mobility issues. For them, a truly autonomous home assistant wouldn't just be a luxury, it would be life-changing. But because the technology is so raw, so unfinished, and relies on this incredibly expensive experimental beta testing phase, the very people who would benefit the most are completely priced out and alienated from the market right now.
Section 2, the AI promise problem.
Now what's really fascinating here is that this rollout strategy isn't just isolated to one robot company. It perfectly illustrates a wider, increasingly deceptive trend happening across the tech world right now. Because the promise of artificial intelligence is so massive, companies are feeling immense pressure to announce their products way before they are actually fully baked. We've seen this exact same pattern play out repeatedly just this year. Think about the Humane pin. It was announced with this massive post-smartphone potential, but it launched with a miserable, utterly unfinished user experience. The Rabbit R1 similarly leaned way too heavily on early adopters to beta test a deeply flawed initial release. I mean, even massive players like Apple, with Apple Intelligence, have announced features far ahead of what the software can actually tangibly do today. The real capabilities are stuck right here in the present, while the marketing promises exist years in the future.
Which leaves us with one final, deeply important thought to take away from this explainer today. The dream of a robotic home assistant, it's beautiful. And theoretically, this is exactly the kind of truly productive, world-improving thing we want AI to be doing for us. But as the gap between the marketing hype and the actual technological reality continues to widen, we really have to ask ourselves, is it ethical for companies to sell us the ultimate sci-fi dream before the product even actually exists? And maybe more importantly, when do we as consumers finally stop paying these tech companies top dollar just to act as beta testers for their illusions?